and welcome back to the game. That's right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is part 3 of our 132 card review on the Grand Tournament patch coming out for Hearthstone. I'm really having a good time reviewing these cards for you. I'm hoping it's helpful for everybody out there who watches. And I know a lot of the gamers here on the channel watch some of the other content, but I really appreciate those that watch Hearthstone. I really like this game, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying what I hope is, you know, giving you some type of help, that's what we do here on this channel. Lots of subscribers from the series, not a lot of comments. Let's get to the first card. All right, Darnassus Aspiring. What a great card to start this part of our series. I really like this card. I mean, like, I'm giving this a solid A+, and I'm going to tell you why. Druids, number one, have needed some type of something, some spice, you know, and this is the spice right here. You got a battle cry that gives you a crystal, and the death rattle, once the card is taken away, takes the crystal away. Now, what does that do to the opponent? When the opponent sees this card, they're confused. They don't know what to do. They're like, you know, yeah, I need to take this card away to take that crystal away. So it almost acts as a taunt. You put it down, and the opponent's like, well, I got to kill that thing, you know? They think they're getting the advantage by taking it away, but you have already gained it. So this is not the type of crystal you really want, or this is not the type of card you want to play like right up front, beginning game. This is a card you want to play like on turn, like mid game. You know, anytime mid game, you get the extra crystal. You have the ability to maybe, you know, say you're on turn turn 5, for instance, right? Strange, right? But think about this. You lay the Aspirant down, all right? You use 2, you're at 3. Now you gain 1, you're at 4. You can use a swipe. You can use a shredder. You can use a couple cards that, I mean, there's tons of 4 cards that Druids use. So this is a good turn 5 move. My personal opinion. A lot of people have said that, you know, maybe you should just silence it with like a Keeper of the Grove. I'm not too sure if you want to silence it. I think this is just the type of card that gives you that extra boost that you need, like a Wild Growth, but with a minion attached to it. So I mean, that is like, come on, let's do that. Why aren't we doing that? And you might even want to double this card up. I mean, like, you might even want to put 2 of these in your deck to just really kind of like throw the opponent off. It's a great card to make the other guy stumble. And that's why I like it. And that's why we're giving this card an A+. Next card. All right, Wrathguard, which is a Warlock card. Really, another one that I'm really excited about. 2 mana, 4/3. These types of cards I call overpower cards personally, because what they're doing is you know, a lot of people get scared. They see that it takes away damage from or takes away life from your hero, and they start to freak out. It's like a turbo boost card. I like cards that deal with higher damage, lower mana crystals, and I'll take the risk of losing some life if I can pound the other guy first. That's 4 attack, 3 health. Okay, so like you're only losing 3. It's the same kind of concept as Flame Imp. And a lot of people look at Flame Imp and they say, I don't like this card. But like, if you're a Warlock, you have to realize that you're taking on the damage. Now, these types of cards are not only good early game cards, they're great late game cards paired with Mal'Ganis. This type of card goes great with a Mal'Ganis, not only because of the late game Mal'Ganis, where you do not take damage. When you put Mal'Ganis down, you do not take any damage. You put this card down after the Mal'Ganis, you don't take any damage. You get a Void Caller, right? This card comes up because it's a demon, and you're seeing a lot of demons to the point where I would imagine you could legitimately run a demon deck at this point in time. Some people say it's not there yet, but I think you could truly have just like a complete Warlock demon deck with a Mal'Ganis in it, and just literally just tear somebody up. I like this card. Now, I'm not gonna give it an A. I'll give it a B. You know, I'm still kind of, you know, like, I wish there was no drawback to the health, but I can handle that. Some people can't. But if you're a Warlock, or you play Warlock a lot, you understand this is part of the game. So really happy with this card. Love it. Should be part of your deck. B. Okay, Shadopan Rider. I'm really digging this card. It's a rogue card. I like the bonuses with the combo. Obviously, as a rogue, you've got plenty of chances to buff this card out to a 6/7 with a 5 mana crystal. On turn 4, you could possibly use this with the ring, and boom. On turn 4, the ability of having a 6/7 is definitely a threat to the opponent. So I like this. It's pushing more of a control type rogue deck, which I don't see a lot of. This card is the type of card you could use. I mean, combo spell like backstab. You could do a couple things with this and then get the buff on this pretty easy. So this card is a pretty solid card in my opinion. I think you're going to see a lot of rogues try and start to implement this, depending upon what type of deck they have. I could see that there's quite a few rogue decks that actually won't implement this because there's not a lot of control rogue decks if you think about it. But just based on its stats alone, I think you're going to see this. 6/7, is a pretty good card mid-game. So I will give this a B. Next card. All right, next card, Druid of the Saber. Pretty interesting card. Just looking at it from the start, it kind of makes you feel like this is a good card to put in your deck. I'm not too sure about it. I know I like the low mana cards. It's a 2 with a 2/1, and you have the ability to transform to gain a charge and just hit early on with 2, which is, not that great. Or have the ability to get a +1/+1 in stealth. Now, that's a cool feature. I like the fact that they're stealthing it. That's different. But on the other hand, I mean, this going up into Druid of the Fang is good, but I don't think there's enough health on this particular card to make it that worthy of a card to put in your deck. Even with the +1/+1 buff, you're talking about 2 health. Big deal. If it's stealth, big deal. I mean, like, there's a couple cards that can take it out, like some like Consecration. There's a couple cards that you're going to deal with that maybe might take this card out before you can even play it. On the other hand, I mean, there's not that many, but still, I just don't like the fact that this is so low of a health. I 2 mana though for 2 health with a 3 attack, not that bad either. So I don't know, I'm kind of split 50-50 on this. I don't think you'll see a lot of it being played. I'm liking that they're focusing a little bit more on the Druid again, like we discussed earlier. I think that there needs to be more synergy when it comes to like beasts and Druid. That's just not there yet. They need to focus a little bit more on that. Bringing a beast deck into play would be nice with Druid. But coming back to this card here, I'm not too sure, so we're going to give this card a C. Next card. All right, crowd favorite. So not my favorite. Not my favorite at all, in fact. And if there was a crowd, they would be booing. That is because there are not enough card plays to really make this card worth it. Like when it comes down to it, you'll see some people probably try to use this card constructing some type of battlecry deck. There are a few cards that would pair good with it. But I don't see this card being anything really worthwhile. Now, I mean, if you really think about it, I think when it comes down to this type of card, Questing Adventurer does it better. I know that Questing Adventurer is 3 mana with the 2/2, but you can use it a lot earlier than this card. This card is too late game to do anything with, and because you're really using a lot of battle cries, with this card, it just doesn't make it. It just doesn't. I'm thinking here. I'm stuck in a thought because now I'm trying to think of decks where I could implement this card, and that's the trap. That's the trap of this card, and that's why I'm giving this card an F, because it's really not worth constructing a deck specifically for this card, and that's what this card really makes you want to do. You know, you want to get behind this card, you want to root for this card, but when it comes down to it, this guy is going to be the underdog, and he's not going to be getting you any trophies. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, I think we should give this card an F. Alright, Mukla's champion, riding on the hippo, yo. He doesn't care. He's a monkey on a hippo. What do you think? He doesn't care. Mukla doesn't care. And neither do I. And you got a 5 mana card with the 4/3. Give me a break, okay? So what? It's got the Inspire feature, +1/+1 on other champions. So your initial thought is, wow, I'm just going to keep hitting the hero power, and I'm just going to +1/+1 everybody. I'm going to pair it up with cards where I get 2 heroes powers in one turn, because there are Inspire cards like that. The chances that you're going to be able to pull that off are so slim. It's like a pipe dream. You know, a lot of these cards in the new expansion pack here in the Grand Tournament will be a trap. It's a tarp. You know what I'm saying? Because they want you to get into this fantasy that Inspire is going to be the end all of the gameplay, and yes, it will change the meta. I do believe that it will. Time will tell. But you have to be smart about how you're using it, and this is not smart at all. Just like a monkey riding a hippo, building a deck off of this is like you're riding the hippo and you're the monkey. So you cannot fall into this trap. In fact, you know, 5/4/3 is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Also, there's other cards that kind of give you this little spurt of the +1/+1, which, you know, I can think of like a Stormwind Champion, stuff of that nature, and he is a better card than this card. So we're gonna give this one a solid fat F, and we're gonna go to the next card. All right, Ancestral Knowledge. We were doing so good at the beginning, and now we're just we're in the gutter realm. I mean, this is like complete trash card. We were doing great in the beginning of this, and now we're just hitting a whole bunch of F cards. This particular one, why do you say this Shaman card really could have been so much better if it had just 1 overload rather than 2 overload? As you see so many Shaman decks out there, you want to see better cards for Shaman, and this is just a really bad attempt. And had they made it 1 overload, I would have endorsed it. I probably would have given it a B, but the fact that you've got a 2 overload on this to draw 2 cards is ridiculous. You shouldn't even think about using it. It's going to hurt more than it's going to help. What are you going to do? You got 2 cards you can't play because your overload sucked it up, so you're wasting a turn, and you can't waste any turn in this game. Every turn's got to count. This obviously makes it so that the opponent gets the advantage on you, and I mean, okay, so you got the ring, maybe. Not even then. Don't attempt this. I'm giving it an F. Let's move on. Alright, Bolster, which is a warrior card, trying to bring about a whole new constructed taunt deck, which is kind of a joke. At this particular point in time, let me just say this. You know, I'm not the type of person that's going to be closed-minded and think that there's not going to be some type of valid taunt deck ever. And this card actually inspires people to build some type of taunt warrior deck. Now, you could pair it up with Defender of Argus. You could do early taunts so that this, you know, like you could do earlier taunt neutral cards, which then this card would make those cards much more viable. However, I don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening. When I first started playing Hearthstone, I tried to make like an all taunt deck, and that's when I realized that that is not really what you want to do. If you play defensively, you will lose. You have to play aggressively. When you play this game, you have to think about how you're going to get your opponent from 30 to 0 as quickly as possible, and taunts do not do that. And that is a really important lesson. Until somebody will construct a deck that has some type of taunt viability to it, this card is complete trash until then. So I'm giving it an F, and I'm challenging anybody to make a taunt deck out there that can hold its own and possibly use this card. But until then, we're giving this one an F, and we're just going through too many cards right now that are just Fs. Let's hope that the next card is actually pretty decent. All right, Argent Lance. Now, you know, at first glance, you got a 2-mana 2/2. That's not bad. I mean, that's not that terribly bad. It's an early game weapon. You can take out, you know, some early game minions if you want with it, and you also have the option, or the not option, but you also have the chance to hit a 2/3 on this, but the chances are really slim that you're going to be able to get that additional +1 durability, even if it were a 2/3. I'm not too hot on this. There's other weapons, obviously, with Paladin that I think are a much better fit with other decks. Comparing this directly maybe with a Cog's Hammer, or I mean, there's so many other weapons. That's the first one that comes to mind, because you get the Divine Shield with that in a taunt, and I'd rather have the Cog's Hammer than something like this. But no, I'm gonna have to give this one, I'll give it a D. I'll give it a D because I see some use out of it, but to put it in a deck that most Paladin decks are pretty solid and constructed as is, and I can't see this fitting in with any of those decks, or the reason to make a new deck for this card. So I will give this a D. Next card. All right, Armored Warhorse, a pretty different card. You know, this Joust card basically reveals cards in each deck, and if yours costs more, then you gain the charge. Now I like the concept of it. It's kind of like what we were looking at on our last card, as far as revealing cards from other people's decks and being able to not only see their card, but then use it to your advantage. But I don't like. I like the idea of what they're trying to do to make it different, but the thing is that you're gambling. I mean, there's already enough RNG. Now you're adding like another layer of it, and I think when you start to do that, your odds become that much more difficult, or probability of you being successful become that more difficult, because you're giving yourself more of a chance not to hit. So while it's tempting, because it's a 4-mana 5/3, it's not a sure thing. If this were a charge card right off the bat, yes, and you'd use it in any face deck possible. You're not going to be using this in a control type deck. So all in all, I don't really see use for this card, nor did I with the previous card that had the same concept, because I don't like adding more risk. Like, it's a game where there's enough risk that's involved. You need clarity, and this card does not give you that type of clarity. So because of that, I will give this card, I mean, I like the concept of it, so I'm going to give it a D. But I think it's a trap. Again, I think this is a trap, so just be careful. All right, Burgle. I like this card. It's thank God. I mean, we were hitting some really bad trash there on those last couple cards, but this card brings about. It's a rogue card. It's a cool looking card. It reminds me of the Hamburglar. But anyway, it was a McDonald reference. Do I get any extra revenue from that for mentioning them? Anyway, very similar to the Priest's card, Thoughtsteal. I mean, Thoughtsteal and Burgle are basically the same card. I like this card. Again, this is bringing about more of a mindfulness to a rogue controlled deck, and I think this will be a very useful card in making that a reality, making it a stronger reality, and I like that about this card. So I would say you're going to see this card. I would say that I'm going to give this a strong B, and I'm not much of a rogue player, but as I'm going through these and reviewing them, I'm actually thinking of putting together maybe a rogue control deck and put it on best decks. But very interesting card and thought-provoking. So I am giving it a B, and that dude's just like, what's up? I got your shit. All right, injured Kvaldir. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not quite sure, but that pronunciation is just as bad, probably, as this card. I think this card's probably created for priests. 2/4 damage 3, so you're a 2/1. You're getting 1 for a 2/1, and I've seen more interesting cards that are 1/2/1 cards that have better bonuses than this. I don't want to like try and support this minion and heal this minion just for a 2 attack. It's a wasted effort, and I will give this a big F. And let's get to the next card. All right, Master Jouster. Now on this particular card, here we have another Joust card where the mechanics will reveal a minion in each deck, and if yours costs more, you gain Taunt and Divine Shield, which is nice to have the Divine Shield. And you got a 6 mana cost with 5/6. No. And I tell you why. Because again, when you come into this, you're talking about additional RNG. It's a trap. These cards rely on the fact that you have to hit an additional layer of RNG. And when you do that, you got to look at percentages. It's a card game. And the percentage of this hitting where you need it to be is not going to be there. What is the percentage that you need it to be? Well, I got to be pretty sure when I'm playing these cards that I'm getting as close to 100% probability as possible. It's bad enough I got to deal with all the RNG in the game. Now I got to deal with another additional layer of RNG. And because of that, I'm not too happy about that. Plus, this card actually is not that great compared to like a Sunwalker. So, you know, that's a for sure thing. It's there. It's taunted. It's Divine Shield. You don't have to worry about the RNG madness. And because of that, I'm going to give this card an F. So I wouldn't use it in your decks, and I would be very careful about adding another layer of risk to a game that's full of risk anyway. So F. All right, Tusker Jouster. Here we have another Jouster, and you know I'm not too hot on Jousters. So, however, this is a Paladin-based Jouster. I might like this a lot better than the other ones, and I'll tell you why. It's a 5/5/5, good base stats, good all-around stats on that. Solid card, mid-game card. While the probability is still kind of low to hit. I mean, like, it's not low. In fact, on something like this, you're going to have like a 50-50 chance of hitting this, which, you know, isn't close to the 100% that I want. Like, I got to be around 80 to 90% to even be sure that I want to use a card similar to like this. But the thing is that on this particular card, you're talking about a heal, which is a 7 health to your hero if you win the joust. I like the bonus on this. And if you compare it with, for instance, a lot of Paladin decks will run with the heal bot, and that is a 3/3, I believe, card. You get an additional +2 with this card. So you're getting a 5/5 with this, with the possibility to a chance to heal. Depending upon the decks you're going against, there might be even a better chance of hitting it, like a 60 to 70% chance of hitting this. So I'm mixed about this, but I for some reason, I mean, that's the reason primarily, is because I'm getting the heals. I'm getting 1 less heal. Antique heal bot's an 8. I'm getting 1 less of a heal. Big deal. But I'm also getting a +2 stats on this rather than what the heal bot gives you. So I think I like this better than the heal bot. Yeah, I think I would just get rid of the heal bots and put this in its place and just roll the dice on this particular card. I think that depending upon the decks you're going against, that you will find that you'll have a higher percentage or probability with hitting on this one. And if you don't, you know, with a Paladin based control deck, big deal, because you've got other types of heals waiting in the ranks for you. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a solid B. I like this particular jousting card, so I'd say replace this one with your antique heal bots. Or use this in lieu of the antique heal bots. Use this one. Yeah, I'm just making sure before we go to the next card. I'm running the numbers in my head, and I like it. So yeah, I would say you're safe to do that, guys. So take this card and replace it with the heal bot, and you should be okay. Plus, you've got a card that gives you +2/+2 on your base stats, and you're set. So yeah, this one definitely does the trick for the Paladin. All right, the Impaler, legendary card, 4 with 4/4, battle cry. If you have 4 other minions, you can deal an additional 4 damage. Now, all right, guys, seriously, what is the possibility that you're going to have 4 minions on the table? And if you do, it's usually late game. And arguably, a lot of people will say, "Hey, how about the hounds? How about the hounds on Hunter?" Okay, okay, possibly. That's not a bad idea. So we'll give it a little validity. How about the patrons on the Paladin? No, I wouldn't do that. So, like, really, the only viable option would be to pair this with hounds when you're really outmatched. And at that point, is 4 damage really going to help you? Because if you're putting the hounds out there, you're obviously going to need a hunter's mark. You're going to need maybe some type of buff with the alpha wolf, or you know, anything to have any effect, and then you can lay down this. But that's at turn 7. I mean, you need 7 mana for that. So you're really hurting if you're using that as an option. So just because of that, I think this card isn't that great of a card. Legendary card, good try, valiant attempt, but you're falling flat on your face. And I will give it a D just because we mentioned hounds. And I'm trying to think of any other possibilities before I go for it, but I'm giving it a D, unless you guys can come up with something different on this card. But I will give it a D for that. I was going to give it an F, but I will give it a D. And anyhow, I think we've gone over quite a few cards. Thanks everybody for watching here on the games. We're getting tons of subscribers from this series. Not as many views as I had hoped, but I'm sure over time it'll build up upon itself. Please like and share. Please check out our Patreon page. Please donate, pledge, help us grow, help us get us to where we want to be as a community together. That's what we're about here on the games. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 4. And yeah, check out the other stuff on the channel, guys. All right. See you on the next vid.